It's Reese on the radio. Calm down. The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. WTIC. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Hey, what's going on, all you scallywags out there? It is the Reese on the Radio Rundown for Sunday. Just chill, relax. Weekend's almost over. We get back to regular work days. I don't even know what to say about my weekends now. If you've been listening to the show this week, you may have found out that I'm officially retired from regular work. Radio is my last gig. This is what I'm going to try to do for the duration until I pick up Social Security, which is in about 10 years. And even then, I don't think I'm going to quit the radio thing, unless, of course, they fire me. That could happen. I'm just saying. But, yeah, I'm not going to work a regular job anymore. And I can't – not that I can get out in the workforce again. And if you do see me out there again – I'll admit it will probably not be a job that's arduous, painstaking, anything like that. If there's anything, I will probably, and it's not a job that I sort of poo-poo. I'm not making fun of it, but I think it wouldn't be an awful gig. I would be a Walmart greeter. I would do that job. Or a job that I took when I was a teenager, and that is a host at a fast food restaurant, which when I applied for it as a teenager, I thought a host was like a greeter at Walmart. And welcome to McDonald's. Welcome to Burger King. No, this turns out that the job as a host in a fast food restaurant means you mop, you wipe down tables, you're a busboy. You're custodial at best. But they called it host. And I remember the first time I told somebody that. Just like, hey, you got a job? I'm like, yeah, I'm working over at Burger King. Oh, what do you do? I'm a host. And they looked at me, and I don't blame them for looking at me kind of weird. It was like people had been to a Burger King. Not once were they ever greeted by the maitre d' of Burger King. But that was, only reason why I say that, it wasn't like I was fabricating my role. That's what my name tag said. It said host. So I thought, I was being honest. So that was my first foray. But I would do that again. I would go back to a fast food restaurant, and I would do that job of host part-time, where I come in and wipe the tables down, maybe bring some old ladies their coffee. Maybe someone eating, dining in would have a problem with their order. No problem, sir. No problem, ma'am. I'll take that cold apple pie back to the counter for you and get you a fresh one. Like something like that. I would do that. That is the kind of, just so I can stay busy, and my wife would come and pick me up after my shift, and I'd still have my hat on. And she would look at me and say, how was your day, dear? And I would say something like, these customers are animals, I'll tell you. No, I'm kidding. I don't want to be mean to them. I'm just saying that's what I'm thinking in my head. So it's my first weekend off. I'll talk a little bit about it in a minute, about what it was like. But we got plenty of news and plenty of views to get into today. We've got to talk about Chuck Schumer and the decision to get himself, Kristen Gillibrand, what's the guy's name? John Fetterman, to get them to sign off on this CR. Republicans needed Senate Democrats to help them out. Democrat or congressman or congresswomen in the Democrat Party are livid. They're screaming, they're shouting, Politico is saying, and it's all in an upheaval. I'm going to explain to you what I think happened here. I think Chuck Schumer was placed over a barrel. And it's, for me, I'm going to make a weird prediction about what happened. And Chuck Schumer may have had to sell his party short in doing this. So we'll talk about that. I'll get to it maybe with some audio sound bites from Hakeem Jeffries, who's also very livid. Talk about that. What else do we have to talk about today? I know I've got to talk about my interview that's coming up on Monday, which is about the DCF and the young man, the 32-year-old man who was found after 20 years locked in the home of his stepmother. And I'm hearing other reports that say that not only did he have siblings, but the siblings are screaming foul, in essence, like they didn't know this was happening. There's other developments that say that he was allowed to leave or he could have left at any particular time. But that brings up more questions than it does answers. And the questions, for me, are rhetorical. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And, of course, some other stuff. We got so much stuff to get into. Don't forget, if you haven't already, check out reeseontheradio.com. That's REESE on the radio.com, where you can check out the stupidest thing I've read today. We've got Apple and Dave's podcast, Prepare to Unfriend, you can find there. A whole bunch of other stuff. You can listen to this show and past Sunday shows if you missed it. Check out some of my predictions, things that I said would come to fruition. I think I'm at a good 95% on my predictions. So if you want to go back, please do. Share it with your friends. One of the things that we're trying to do here, and if I may sort of grovel a little bit and self-promote, one of the things that we have been trying to do, because it's important to Reese on the radio and to make sure that we stay here in Hartford, Connecticut, we stay on WTIC, and we build the brand. I want to give you the radio that you appreciate and that you deserve. So in order to do that, I need your help. So tell your friends about the show. Tell your friends what the show is about. Tell your friends why it's interesting. Tell your friends why it's something they would love, they should engage with by giving us a phone call during the week from 3 to 6, or just friending us on Facebook and on X. And if they miss a show, they can go back and watch it, because one, if we grow the audience, we not just spread the message, and it's not about that. I don't want people to get the impression that I want them to follow me down some sort of primrose path. It's not about that. I want to broaden the conversation to other people. I give my perspective because I'm, in essence, putting my neck out there to say, this is what I think. Tell me if you disagree. Tell me if I'm coming from a place of experience or knowledge, or you've had a different experience. Enlighten me. I'm looking at things from a common sense, from my own, I will admit, from my own perspective, but from common sense, or what I see is common sense. And I want to engage with people to at least bounce those ideas off of people. The only thing this show is about is getting people to think, getting people out of the mind-numb robot state of being there is. Conventional wisdom is bumpkiss. I don't believe in it. So that's what we're trying to do here at Reese on the Radio. So help us out. Spread the word. Tell your friends. It's REESE on the radio.com, and engage. Send us a message. I'm getting notes upon notes upon notes, especially with people who disagree with me. And I'll talk about that a little bit today as well, and also on Monday. So stick around for that. All right. So the show's about to begin, and we're going to have some fun with it. All right. So stick around. It's Reese on the Radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
Catch Reese on the Radio. Reese on the Radio. Only on WTIC. NewsTalk 1080.
I think there is a deep sense of outrage and betrayal. There are members of Congress who have won Trump-held districts in some of the most difficult territory in the United States, who walked the plank and took innumerable risks in order to defend the American people, in order to defend Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare, just to see Senate Democrats even consider acquiescing to Elon Musk, I think it is a huge slap in the face. We cannot afford to be in an every person for themselves kind of moment. We need to work together and as a team in order to usher our country through this very dark time.
That was New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, as she is popularly known as, talking about how livid she and congressional Democrats are that Senate Democrats would actually vote for a GOP bill, right? Because the objective, right, they have to oppose everything that Donald Trump wants, and that's to let their base, 21%, I might add, to let them know that, look, we're fighting. We're not just going to let this guy just skate all over us. Chuck Schumer, how dare you? They can't believe that anyone would vote with Republicans here because they don't have much resistance to give. Everything that they could do it in the courts, file lawsuits and all that stuff, which is what they're doing. But a lot of things that they're going to be up against the wall. This is really strategic in what the Trump administration is doing this time around. There's no flat-footed nonsense going on now. Everybody knows what they're doing. The people who are there know how to work Washington, know how to work the rooms, know how to get what they want done. This right now is like junior varsity to varsity. This is like, D-League to pro. These guys know what they're doing. Having to care what Ocasio-Cortez says or Hakeem Jeffries has to say, for that matter, it doesn't matter. This is the Senate was going to make the final decision. They weren't going to do what congressional Democrats wanted. That it wasn't going to happen. There was going to be something they had to give up, and they had to give up everything. But I believe there was something else going on. We'll get to that in a second. Speaking of Senate Democrats, congressional Democrats, let's get Hakeem Jeffries. This was him livid because he knows, Chuck Schumer pretty much had a phone call with him, or there was a caucus of some sort where Chuck Schumer said, look, we're voting for this. It's going to happen. You can forget about it. You're going to go back and tell your constituents, we're losing on this one. We're going to take the L. Here's Hakeem Jeffries, again, because what's the biggest problem in the Democrat Party? They cannot infight. They do not know how to infight, which is good. Republicans can do it all day. Democrats cannot. Here's Hakeem Jeffries.
No. Do not characterize.
No, my question was, why are you afraid to say this?
Do not characterize my remarks. I'm not afraid about anything.
But you went to another question twice. When asked
Isn't
about
it a yes or no
that.
question?
I said I was very clear that we look forward to working with every single one of our Senate Democratic colleagues. Every single one of them. Push back against the Trump administration. Every single one.
You just said yes to having confidence in this would go away in many ways.
Do you think that this is what the American people care about right now? Or do they want us to do everything that we can to stop this partisan and harmful Republican bill from actually becoming law? Because that's what we as House Democrats are focused on.
You didn't.
Right?
Now you can see Hakeem's doing a lot of talking but saying nothing. By the way, I love it when people do that. They say everything but say nothing. Mouth moving, no words, at least of any relevance coming out. And if you need the actual evidence of this guy their inability, we're talking about Democrats here, their inability to infight, and they should be able to speak their mind, right? So when they're caught, usually the idea is they do whatever they're told to do, and they follow lockstep, goose step, whatever the case may be. So then when they're caught up against it, and people have to be contrarian to their own party, here's exactly what happens. Hakeem Jeffries asked, do we need new leadership?
Is it time for new leadership in the Senate?
Next question.
Mr. Jeffries.
That answer was yes. He said next question, but what he really meant to say was yes, absolutely. Yesterday, we need new leadership. All right, of course, Chuck Schumer, he finally had to come out of his deep, dark hole and defend his decision to fund this CR. he went on CNN to talk to Jake Tapper that went like this.
There was no way to get out of it unless Trump and Musk wanted it. Again, ask yourself the question, why were Musk and Vogt and Doge so eager for us to vote for a shutdown?
Your counterpart in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, was asked a question about whether he had faith in your leadership, whether he thinks you should stay Senate leader, and his response was, next question.
Look, Hakeem and I get along. We've known each other a very long time, but I expected when I did this. I think it was an act of strength, of courage, and I knew that most people wouldn't agree with me. But I'm confident I did the right thing, and I think history will vindicate that.
First of all, Chuck Schumer right there is lying. History will not recall what his vote was. There's no way to tell how his vote to vote with Republicans will actually prove him right in the long run. There's no way. The thing that Democrats were concerned about the most is now done. It's a hypothetical. History's not going to be able to record what would have happened if it had gone the other way, other than the fact that people wouldn't have been working. That's all. We know what would have happened if you had voted for a government shutdown. Elon Musk and Donald Trump would have done exactly what you expected them to do. Cut more waste, fraud, and abuse. The only thing history is going to do in the future is allow them to complete their mission. That's it. History is not going to be favorable to you. It'll be favorable to the Trump administration. So that was a bunch of nonsense. But let me tell you how I know that Chuck Schumer's goose is definitely cooked. It's when a politician says something like this. It's nothing more than a proverbial swan song.
You know, when you're in politics, you know what I've always said? The higher you climb up the mountain, the fiercer the winds blow. And the only way not to be blown off is to have your internal gyroscope. My internal gyroscope, my very thorough look at what would happen on either alternative, came to a strong conclusion, and that was that a shutdown would be much, much worse.
You know what I think? And you know, I really, really do think this. I'm willing to stick my neck out on this one. I am almost certain of it. I think Trump had dirt. I think Trump had real good dirt. This guy was on television calling Republican bastards. This guy was hard-nosed against this administration. He's on the front line. Everyone is following his lead. For him, the Senate minority leader, to turn his back on his minions and vote for what Donald Trump wanted, there's no way the Trump administration didn't have dirt. There's no way. I know they had it. I know in my heart of hearts, I know they have it. Look, they've got Elon Musk and a bunch of 20-somethings digging deep inside all facets of the government. And you're going to tell me that they didn't find some leverage? They didn't find some dirt? They could have just gone in there and just gone, boom, blown it all up. They could have done that. But I think Donald Trump this time around had leverage. I think there was a private conversation. I'm not suggesting, you know, living prostitute, dead boy. I'm just saying, you know, there's something. There's just no way. It's political. Listen, what Chuck Schumer did was political suicide. Even Nancy Pelosi's coming for your head. Like you two, peas in a pod, Nancy and Chuck. First go round in the Trump administration, these two were tag teaming that administration. I might add, successfully in some cases. And sure enough, Chuck Schumer buckles. There's no way they don't have dirt on him. There's no way. Me and my wife were talking about it. We're just going, nah, somebody's got dirt. Just does. It just was too easy. Too easy. Flip-flop in a day? You go from one day, we're calling them bastards and evil this and evil that, to a day later. You were out on screaming and hollering at protest about Doge, Elon Musk, millionaire, billionaire, all that stuff, and all of it out of nowhere. And you were riding on the idea of shutting down the government and it being Donald Trump's fault. The media was going to assist you in that. The media was going to assist you in the idea that you were not responsible. It was Donald Trump's shutdown. And you caved? Dirt was gotten. Dirt was had. Dirt was used. We'll take a break. We'll be back. More news, more views when we return. It's Reese on the Radio, NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
It's Reese on the radio. And don't say we didn't warn you on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
Hey, make sure you join us on Monday at 4:11 p.m. We're going to talk to State Senator Jason Perillo. He's been an outspoken person talking about the young man who was just discovered after 23 years allegedly being locked in a home by his stepmother. I think reports have suggested his father just passed away a year ago. But I read this affidavit about this young man, and from what it says, or his testimony to police and authorities, that when his father was alive, when people weren't home, his father would have him come out and would allow him to watch television, for an hour or so. And the stepmother had him out doing chores in the house for sometimes an hour, sometimes all day. He'd be in the backyard with the dog, maybe for a minute. He had gone missing, or no one had seen of him since he was like 11, 12, 13 years old. You've heard all the stories. I mean, I couldn't add anything to this that you haven't heard other than questions. And some of them I know you have, some of them you might not have. But if I can, because I said earlier in the show that there are more questions than answers. And when I say questions, not questions I need answers. These are more rhetorical at best. Because one, I know that there can be no answers, and other questions I already have the answers to. And let me throw a couple at you. The mother suggests that this young man could have left at any time he wanted to. And I'm looking at that. If that's going to be your testimony at trial, if that's what your lawyer is going to suggest at trial, several questions come to me that fly in the face of that reality. Let's run a couple by. If this is a person that you loved, cared about, or respected in any way, that has been in your life since a little boy, allegedly was in captivity, but in the house nonetheless at age 11, why is a 32-year-old man standing at 5'9" at 68 pounds? Could have left whenever he wanted to. If you saw this person in your house for 20 years and they were not eating and they were not bathing and they have tooth decay to the point where, we're talking teeth rotting in the face, not once did you assist this individual in getting their teeth fixed, helping them with their personal hygiene, providing nourishment to keep them from being emaciated at 68 pounds? They could have left at any time? Somebody's got to explain that to me, because, again, I'm sorry, as a reporter, I know that I get it. In my head, I get it. Why some people don't ask the question. I'm going to go with they're not real journalists. That's all. Because even if you don't get an answer, at least report that you asked. You asked the lawyer that. Oh, they could have left at any time? Okay, well, they never left. Not once as a mother were they concerned about the well-being of that individual, to the point where they, again, unkept in the worst kind of degree. The uncle who visited him in the hospital said he looked like a Holocaust survivor. If this person was living in your house for 20 years, you did nothing? Not once. And in fact, the lawyer didn't even say this individual could have left at any time, but refused help. And a mother kept that person in the house, just living there in a storage bin or a makeshift storage bin that entire time. Not once was it made. Hey, evidence of maybe plates of uneaten food. Huh? I would be providing all types of evidence that said, no, we tried to take care of him, but he refused. He wanted to be emaciated. He wanted to be locked in the room. He wanted to let his teeth rot. He never wanted to go to school. He never wanted to learn a thing. Sure, he sounds like the person with the capacity of a preteen. Never bothered to get a job, and we didn't force him to. We just let him be for 20 years. The house didn't stink when the person was walking around, in and out. That wasn't bothering you? Like when it walked by you, you just weren't going, whoo, buddy, you need a bath. Not once. You just let him live. Like, this stuff doesn't make sense. So, okay, it just ridiculous. I get so... I don't even know who I'm frustrated at. I don't know if I'm frustrated at this Sullivan woman or I'm frustrated at the news media that just you don't follow up. I heard this story. As I'm reading, I'm just going, nobody asked? Not anybody asked. Or maybe it's so stupid to ask. Everybody knows that she's lying. You know? It's just one of those things where you just say to yourself, like, come on. I'm just... I don't know. I shouldn't even get this animated about it. But, you know, I'll tell you, you know what? Yes, I am. I'm going to get animated. Let me tell you why I'm going to get animated. Okay? I am so sick and tired of the available stupidity that is just permeated over our society. Just allowing stupid things to be said without no check. Like no one's pushing back. Just saying, okay, Mr. Lawyer, sir. Was he there for 20 years, though? Oh, yes, he was. Well, he was allowed to leave. Can you explain to us, has your client expressed why he wouldn't leave? Has your client expressed whether or not they ever tried to get the kid a bath? Has the client expressed any interest in trying to get the young man a job? Just anything. Perhaps go to the dentist? Anything. Please explain to me why the room that he was living in smells like fecal matter for years. Please explain to me that if he was able to leave at any given time, why did he set the house on fire? Just any question. As soon as you start to hear no comment, no comment, no comment, that's when you know. Allegedly, the sister works at some veterinary office. Apparently, someone was telling me that allegedly. And one of my sources said that when the job found out about it, they removed the about our employees. They have like a page for you've been to companies like that has a picture of their employees and tells you a little bit about them. So they had to remove the photograph of said individual off the page, and that's a whole to do. I mean, we're getting to the bottom of that. My source is going to confirm, but the internet's forever. If it was online, we'll find that picture somehow. But that's another question. Again, this individual had siblings. Did they know that this individual was staying in the house for 20 years? Held in captivity? Oh, I apologize. Able to leave freely on his own at any given time? Has anybody questioned them? This is bonkers stuff. So we're going to talk to Jason Perillo tomorrow at 4 p.m. Like 4:11, we'll have him on, and we'll, some of those questions I'll bring up, and trust me, he'll probably laugh at them and just go, this all makes sense. Like, this is crazy. DIFUS, their whole thing. Oh, I said DIFUS. My apologies. They're called what are DSF or whatever they're called. Who cares? I'm too animated right now. I gotta get off this show. Anyway, we'll be back. We'll wrap this puppy up when we return. Stick around. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
The hour that packs a punch. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
So if you haven't heard by now, I guess I'm officially retired. I sold my business. I don't have to go into an office anymore, and I've been doing that every day for a year. There wasn't one day, maybe one. I think probably one day in 365 days that I missed. But it was a long, arduous journey to get here. And I'm still getting phone calls from that office, but that's fine. It's great that I could be home and somebody else is handling it. It's their problem. And I'm just walking them through it, helping them get their feet under them. And that's cool. I feel good about it. It's a young, energetic guy. He likes long hours. Love that for him. He would be great as an employee, but he's better as a private, business owner. Because at least I know that he'll put in all of the hard work and stay late and stuff like that. And I love that because it reminds me of myself. But I got to tell you, this has been the first weekend, and I hate it. But I will tell you this. Let me start off with the good stuff. The good stuff is I cleaned my office, and I mean thoroughly cleaned my office. I'm actually pretty impressed. It had been a mess for a while because I really didn't have time to do it. I'd be at the office, then I'd come and do the show, and the mess would just be laying there, and I'd have wires everywhere, and I have this, that, and the third. And finally, I got to just grab stuff, move it, wrap up some wires, clean a little stuff. Folks, I even dusted. Then, after I did that, I took on the chore of doing the one thing that in this family no one wants to do. Laundry. I did that. In fact, I got to go get the load out of the dryer now. I had to go get that stuff out there. And then, far worse than the laundry, my wife and I have this big, giant tote bag filled with socks that need to be matched. And when I tell you it's socks that need to be matched, we're talking about socks that haven't been matched in over a year and a half. And even though I cannot find socks, I refused to match up these socks. So I sat down, I put it all over my office floor, which was finally cleaned up with all the wires, sat on the floor and matched socks for about 30 minutes listening to music. It turns out a lot of these socks have no matches and they needed to be thrown away. But I did not throw them away. I put them back into totes and I hid them somewhere so my wife can't find them. But at least that is out of the way. We really have a lot of socks, which I'm happy. One of my biggest problems is I can't find socks. Now we have a lot of them, so it won't be a problem. And I got to do a better job with that, with socks. Socks are just those things. I didn't realize that people just, if they can't find their socks, they just buy new socks. They just keep buying them. My mom would have never done that. My mom would get angry when we couldn't find our socks. Where are your socks? I don't know. I don't. Find your socks. She make a big deal out of it. I hated spending money on new socks. Anyway, I realized that I have a lot of baseball hats. I have plenty of them that I don't. I counted today how many baseball caps that I have, and the number is 32 baseball caps. So I should be able to wear a new baseball cap every day of the month and then some. You shouldn't see another baseball cap back in rotation until a month and one, or like that, a month and 3 days out. That's when you should see a hat. There are some hats I wear a lot, though. I've got to go through it. I got a lot of the same kind of color hats, but I don't know. I don't have any tan hats. That's another thing that bothers me. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just rambling on about the hats now. No, so anyway, let me tell you what, and I did clean out the garage. I did that too. Cleaned out the garage, straightened that out. And I have a TV in my garage. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have done that. That's really popular in my neighborhood. Everybody has a TV in the garage. That's where a lot of people hang out. So I have that, and I cleaned up, did the socks, and didn't have any lunch. I ate some fruit. I watched a little bit of television for about maybe 5-10 minutes. Like I said, cleaned the garage, and then started taping the show. Did that. Now I'm trying to figure out what to do with the rest of my day. Crazy part is that I'm going to have to invent things on the weekend to do. So I think I'm going to devise a weird plan. And I think it would be helpful. I think that every Sunday I will dedicate an hour to dusting, which it sounds crazy, right? Because I think that everyone should dust. I don't do it enough. I know my wife hates doing it, but I like it. I did it today and I enjoyed it. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to dedicate at least an hour of day to dusting, making things kind of spiffy. I'll do some, I don't know. I'll do some yard work. Maybe I'll do a little bit of that. We're going to be tilling. We're going to get rid of our grass. The grass is awful. And we're going to do something as well. So I'm going to probably rent one of those little tillers that, you put in the dirt and, picks up all the soil and all that stuff. I'm going to do that. That'll be fun. Because not that I love yard work, but it's a fun thing to do. I've tilled before, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I don't know, maybe do some other designs in my office, maybe in my bedroom. Hang up some pictures. I've only lived here a year. I haven't hung up some pictures. That would be nice. Make the place a little spiffy for my wife. She's already ready to paint now that she's got me home. And I knew this was going to happen, that immediately when I wasn't working and I was at home, it was going to be a honey-do list out of everywhere. As soon as I stopped working, she brought paint samples home, little cans of paint. It's like a little 4-ounce thing. She immediately started doing little swatches on the wall. What do you think of this color? What do you think of this color? And I've just got 2 big giant splotches of paint on my living room wall. What do you think? And I'm like, now we have to paint. Otherwise, we can never have company. It's like, why do you guys never have company? We are not painting for these people. So now I have to paint. And she's picked the color, and I agreed. And it's a nice color. It's like a bluish gray, kind of charcoal-y. And I don't know what it's called. I don't even care. All I know is I have to paint. I have to put up those tape strips and stuff. So it's not that I'm not working, so to speak. I guess I am working now. But it'll be, what's the worst that can happen? I'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy not having to go to work. I'll enjoy not having to deal with customers. You are my customers in essence, right? The listeners. I like you far better than the people at U-Haul. I'll tell you that. It's only the first weekend. This thing could go off the rails. I could be screaming in the next couple of days about how I hate this. I'm just going to have to come up with a new hobby. Maybe I will just do a weekend show just so I have something to do. Other than this one. I don't know. I'll see. I'll keep you posted. I do this Sunday show, so I guess I can sort of give you the details. Maybe I'll post some videos about what it's like being retired at 55. Now I understand why a lot of people don't do it at 55. They wait until they're older, until they can't work anymore. Totally makes sense. All right, that's it for me. As I always say, radio was free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your mind. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. You, have a good day. Pleasant tomorrow. We'll see you back here on Monday, right? Monday, okay? 3 o'clock on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.